Hi there, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. I'll just give it a couple of minutes to let everybody get logged on to today's webinar. In the meantime, if you could let me know where you're from and your level of marketing experience in the chat below, it'd be really great to hear from you. Hi there, Aidan, Jules, Katie. Good to see you today. Over 15 years of experience. Fantastic. Hi, Peter. Amazing. Great to hear from you, Jonathan, Amanda, Harriet. Great mix of people today from different locations all over the world and with lots of different marketing experiences. So that's great. Hi, Robert, Claire, Julian. Great to see you all today. Fantastic. Okay, we'll just give it a tiny bit more time here before kicking off. Amazing. So without further ado, we will now make a start. Thanks very much for joining me today on this Transpond webinar. I'm James Keeler. I'm from the customer success team at Transpond and Capsule. Today, I'm joined by Keith, who's the customer success team lead. And we also have Joe on the call, who is from the Transpond support team. They've kindly joined me today to help answer any queries you may have throughout the session. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A button below on the webinar. That will allow you to ask any questions, and it just helps us make sure that we have answered any queries that you've asked. If we don't get round to all of your queries, we will follow up after the session as well. As another bit of housekeeping, today's session is being recorded. So if you do want to rewatch any parts of this webinar, if you do want to take some of what you've seen today and use it for your business, then the recording will be shared with you by email after this. It will also be sent to anybody who signed up to the session but couldn't make it. So keep on the lookout for that. Now, today we're going to be covering how we can use Transpond to manage your full marketing mix. Now, of course, whether you haven't used Transpond yet or you have been using Transpond, you know that it is an email marketing platform, but there are many other ways, of course, we can market to prospects. So today we're going to be covering what we can do in addition to the email marketing. Now, to start with, I'm going to set the scene for those of you who have less experience with Transpond. So Transpond is an email marketing platform that offers many more features as well that we're going to be covering today. And it's the sister software to Capsule CRM. And as a result, it has a fantastic integration with Capsule that has a few benefits I'll show you momentarily. Transpond's been built from the ground up with ease of use in mind. So it's really easy to use. It has a clean user interface. And whatever aspect of Transpond you're using, it should feel familiar to you once you've started using Transpond. It also offers best-in-class value. So given that it integrates so well with Capsule and it offers lots of advanced features, as well as doing the basics really well, given the price, it is very good value for money. It's also really quick to get started. So one of my personal favorite tools that Transpond offers to let you hit the ground running, as it were, is the brand analyzer. So essentially you can put your company website into Transpond, and it will scan your website for your logo, your company colors, and it will populate the branded templates with that. So you can really hit the ground running and start sending campaigns quickly. It also offers powerful functionality. So this comes in many forms in Transpond, which we will be covering in detail today. But as well as being really simple and easy to use, we can also perform some advanced functionality with it as well. We also have a fantastic and knowledgeable support team who are really great to work with. Whether you're at the start of your Transpond journey or you are an experienced marketeer, they'll be happy to support you on your journey with Transpond. And last but not least, we do come very highly recommended. So we have happy customers all over the globe that are using Transpond and Capsule for their full marketing mix. Now, to get into some more specific points here, today we're going to be talking about omni-channel campaigns. Now, this is the idea that we can target our prospects and gain new leads by marketing across many channels or all channels, as the name Omni suggests. So this, like I mentioned, is in addition to email marketing. We can market via Transpond onto social media, via SMS. We also have an AI chat feature, which is called Conversations in Transpond. This unlocks a whole new level of communication with people and can essentially allow us to use an AI chatbot on the website, as well as allowing us to capture new leads and conversate with people while they're on our website. We also offer web tracking. So this goes hand in hand with a lot of what we're going to be talking about today. And it's about tracking where people go once they have come off a social media post or an email. We can actually see where on our website they have visited and gain new insights there. We also offer lots of powerful automations. And I know automations can be a scary word for a lot of people, but I promise you, Transpond really does make that easy. We'll actually make one live on today's session. I'll show you some of the templates we have for automations, and we'll also make sort of an automation that I think will be useful to a lot of different businesses. And we do, of course, offer reporting and analytics. So whether it's email marketing, looking at the performance of forms and link clicks, etc., we can report on that, take that data to further improve our campaigns and even segment our data if we wish. Some other additional features that I think are worth mentioning now, but we're not going to necessarily cover all of these today, are the two-way sync with Capsule. So when we do first integrate Transpond and Capsule, an initial sync happens where there is a pool of shared contacts created called the Capsule group in Transpond. This is great because it means there's no duplication of work. If you spent time organizing your contacts and segmenting them via tags, for example, you don't have to repeat any of that. They'll be pulled through to Transpond. And any contacts that are updated on Capsule or Transpond, if they're part of the Capsule group, those changes will be reflected in both platforms respectively. Now, talking of contacts, we can also gain new contacts, get new leads via forms. So today I'll show you how the Transpond sign-up forms work. We have a couple of different options because no two businesses are the same. So we'll run through what those forms are, how they work, and how we can use them. I think I'll also set myself a challenge on this webinar. I'll try to build a form, deploy it, and get a lead within 5 minutes. So we'll see how I do on that. Also, last but not least, we do offer spam testing and list cleaning as well. So these two are more for email campaigns, but they are really great tools that allow you to improve deliverability and maintain your sender rating. Now, just to clarify as well, before I move into a screen share on Capsule here, so we are talking about omni-channel marketing today. So this is in addition to email, and we'll be covering conversations and AI chat. We'll be covering social campaigns and also SMS marketing. We also have a bit of a screenshot here of how conversations look. So this is essentially a unified inbox, but I'll show you a live demonstration of how it looks from the website visitor side and how it works from our side when we're replying to those visitors. I'll now move over to my Capsule tab. And I'm starting off in Capsule to show you how you can start using Transpond if you haven't already. We'll also cover a couple of often overlooked features between Capsule and Transpond. So if you are new to Transpond and you don't have an account yet, but you do have a Capsule account, it's really easy to get started. So we actually have this button up here, the marketing button. In Capsule, you can select this and it will take you through to a page where you can sign up for a Transpond account and you can then also integrate it with Capsule. Once you've done that, you'll notice there are a couple of new features and buttons unlocked in Capsule, and we'll cover those now. So if I actually now go into our People and Organizations tab, so this is where we typically manage our customer relationships, and all of our contacts are here. We get a couple of new features when we integrate Transpond and Capsule. Now, the first one that's often overlooked is we have the ability to now add a column called Transpond Status. So when you do integrate Transpond and Capsule, all of your contacts are synced. We appreciate you may not necessarily want to market to all of those contacts though, so we do offer the ability to control the status of them. Are they active? Are they inactive? And also, if somebody unsubscribes from a campaign or their email bounces, that also counts as a status and will be updated across both platforms. It's worth noting as well that when we do integrate the two, we can also use that transpond status as a filter. So if we did want to look at contacts who were all the unsubscribed contacts, for example, we can do so, and for any of the other statuses for transpond. Another thing worth noting before I show you a specific contact record is capsule save lists. So if we do have a couple of filters here, so we'll just choose people that are active. If I wanted to save this as a list, that's really easy to do. I can just click Save Lists, save as a copy in my case. And if I save that, it will appear in my Capsule Save Lists. What's really great about this is that that's also pulled through to Transpond in real time as a segment. So I can later mark it to the people I see in this list really easily. And I've actually done all of that work in Capsule. I don't have to really do any other work in terms of organizing that segment prior to the marketing effort. Now, let's look at a contact record, and I'll go to one of my favorite test contacts here, Jack. Now, it's worth noting here that the main thing I want to show you is in the sidebar here. So when we integrate Capsule and Transpond, we essentially gain the Transpond sidebar. So it's worth noting this is exclusive to Transpond. We do integrate with other marketing platforms, but they don't have this view of the live data. We can't see this person's engagement with our marketing from within Capsule. So this really is advantageous if you're a Capsule user. And as you can see here, I've clicked into that so we can now have this expanded view on the right-hand side. And starting at the top, I have the star rating. So this gives me a really great overview of whether our marketing campaigns are working for this contact. And with 5 stars, I can be sure that they're opening campaigns, they're clicking links, they're visiting our website, and their behavior is very positive. If I had a person with 1 star, for example, I know that perhaps we want to try another marketing method to reach that person. Now I'm looking at activity here. So I'm looking at all activity at the moment. This is essentially everything I've done, all the campaigns I've sent, everything I've sent to Jack, and everything he's done as well. So everything he's clicked, all the website visits, and anything in between. If I do want to be more granular, I can have a drill down view of just opens. So I can see specifically, Jack has been opening this quite actively here all the way from 6 days ago and also today as well. So he really is showing some intent there, which is great news. I can also see clicks. So if I want to specifically see any clicks that Jack's performed on my campaigns, I can do so as well. And as you probably guessed, which we'll talk about very shortly, we've got visits, which relates to website visits. So I can see any website visits that have come off the back of the campaigns I have sent. Now, talking of campaigns I've sent, obviously we want to make it easy to manage those campaigns and have visibility of those if you are sending multiple campaigns out. As such, we do have a campaigns tab as well in the Transpond sidebar, where I can see the campaigns that I have sent out. In this case, I've just sent 1 campaign to Jack, and I can also see if I've been sending multiple campaigns and I want to, again, have a bit more of a drill down view, I can specifically see opens, clicks, and if they have unfortunately unsubscribed, I can see specifically which campaign led to that. Now, I'd like to now go into Transpond, and we'll start talking about the site tracking. This is the first Transpond feature that can really help with that omni-channel marketing presence. So one really great thing about the Transpond sidebar in Capsule is that almost everything is clickable. So if I want to have a more holistic global view of the performance of this campaign, for example, I can just click on that and it will load up the global statistics for this campaign. So as we can see here, this may be a familiar view there, especially for those of you who are experienced marketers. And this is giving me a global dashboard of a test campaign I have sent out. So this is, of course, all test data. And this is giving me the email campaign stats for the campaign I've sent out. I can see all of the headline figures, including that geographical map on where my campaign is really working very well. But what I wanted to focus on today, rather than that email marketing side, is some of the advanced features. Now, what I wanted to show first is the website tracking. Now, what I'd like to show here is that as well as the email clicks and opens that we can quantify, because I have email tracking enabled on my account, I can see this specific newsletter has led to these people visiting my website. So for people using this in production, of course, this will be individuals' actual email addresses, and you'll be able to see specifically where that person has been visiting and what impressions the website has had on that individual. So I'll show you how we can get to this stage where we can start tracking where people are visiting on our website and if it's come from a campaign, for example. Now, this is actually really easy to set up in Transpond, and it's done from the Websites tab here. So if I hover over Websites, I can click on Tracking here, and it brings me through to my site tracking page. Now, as a bit of an overview, site tracking is showing me which pages my subscribers are viewing, and as a result, I can get a really good idea of what their interests are, and I can also look at which emails are driving meaningful behavior from these subscribers. Now, to set this up, I have set a test website up for today's webinar, but to set this up, it's essentially as easy as copying this tracking code, which is essentially just a small snippet of JavaScript, and this needs inserting onto your website into a persistent element. So we typically recommend using the header or footer for this, anything that persists across all your website pages. The reason for this is that this code is required on any page you want to be able to see somebody has visited. So that's why we recommend putting it there. The only other thing you need to do is put the website URL here, click Add Site, and it will then appear under your tracked sites here. Once you've done that, you can then click on the site. You can track multiple sites depending on which Transpond plan you are on. And you can see here, much like the email campaign dashboard we looked at, we have similar views. So at the top here, we have the headline figures of how the website views are performing. Again, I have a geographical map so I can see where most of our visitors are from. We also have this really handy graph here. Now, I'll zoom in slightly so it's less small for you all here to show you that I can see some really interesting data here. You might see we've got a small envelope icon on the x-axis here. The x-axis is time, so as time passes, we can see website visits, we can see the ebbs and flows of website visitors. The y-axis is overall impressions, so that's made up of overall impressions, first visits, returning visitors, and anything else. And we can see on this vertical line here, we can see the name of the campaign. So if, for example, I had sent campaigns on these days as well, I'd be able to attribute those site visits to those campaigns so we can quantify the success of each campaign. Now, I'll zoom back out here and I'll show you some of the other data here. So we do have the visitors page as well, which if I scroll down, again, with it being test data, we've got some similar looking emails. But this is really powerful because we can gain a fingerprint of that person who's visiting the website. And we can actually see, if I click impressions for this test contact here, this will actually load up the specific visits that this person has had on our website. So I can actually see time-stamped data on which URLs they were looking at. And this is just a really useful way of looking at how interested people are with this, gauging their interest in our services. And we could later segment this data into how they've behaved on the website. So we could tag people based upon where they visited, for example, which would allow us to send targeted emails. Now, I'm conscious we're talking quite a lot about websites, and something that is really useful on websites is a chatbot. So whether it's a chatbot, so an AI robot that can reply to messages on your behalf, perhaps out of hours or when you're off, Transpond has a really great tool called Conversations, which can be used on your website, which combines an AI chatbot, which can look at your any resources. So if you have a PDF or a website with lots of information about the business on, you can point it to that. It will do some research and it will be very quickly able to answer queries that potential customers might be asking on the website. It does also include live chat. So if you want your people on the website to speak to a human, you can speak with them using Conversations as well. So it is a really powerful tool. And it's enabled by using the Conversations button up here. So if I go into Conversations, it's worth noting this is on the Transpond Advanced plan and above. And it's really easy to set up. In fact, if you've already set up site tracking by putting that piece of JavaScript on your website, that bundles in the ability to have conversations as well. So this tool essentially is as easy to set up as flicking a switch on, should you wish to use it. It's actually, as a bit of an aside, this was originally set up to capture leads. If you use Google Ads to get people to your website looking at your services, you know it can be quite expensive to get those people to your website. So if you do want to capture leads, Conversations is a great way of doing that because it will ask for a person's email address before sending the message through to our unified inbox here. Now, to show you how this works from both sides, I'll actually go through to a test website that I've set up for this. I've set site tracking and conversations up on here. It didn't take me long at all. And this button here is the conversations button. So what I'm actually going to do first is I'm going to put my status from away to available. So this essentially makes me online. So when somebody messages, I will be notified of that. I can then go to my test website and I can click on the prompt here. Again, I've used this website a couple of times now, so it is recognizing that I have visited before. It's saying welcome back, and it's also looking at my previous chats here. If I did want to start a new conversation, please tell me if I can spell. I'll ask this question. And what it will do is just let me know an agent will be with me shortly. And if you notice my tab at the top here, my conversations tab from Transpond, if I click into that, it's actually flashing saying I've got a new conversation. And I can click into that new conversation here and I can see that we've been asked a question. Now, one of the most liked features about conversations from our customers is the fact that it gives us end-to-end visibility. So somebody's just come through on the website, they've asked us a question. It's obviously come through to our unified inbox here. And I, on the right-hand side here on this sidebar, have visibility of who this person is. And it turns out this is Aaron, and we already have his details. He already exists in Capsule and Transpond. And actually, if I scroll down, before I reply to him, I can see all sorts of different details about him. I can see tags, I can see the last time he visited our webpage, all the way down to which segments he's in Transpond, and even in Capsule, if there is an open opportunity with him, which there is in this case, I have visibility of that. So we can see here, we do have an open opportunity that's worth £2,500. So I definitely want to go back to him now. And then I can just reply here. If I hit send message, that will send a message back through to Aaron. Like I said, we can also activate this out of hours, and we can use the power of AI to answer basic queries like this, and we can then escalate to emailing a human as well if we wish. So this is really customizable, and it's essentially another medium through which you can conversate with customers and potential customers alike. And like I say, if you do have reference material for your business, your services, it can use that. Right. So with that in mind, since we're on the topic of websites, what we'll do next is we'll talk about another way in which we can capture data of people visiting our websites. And since this is website related, we also access forms through the website tab here. So we're going to talk a bit about forms now, and I'm going to try to create one, deploy it, and send a new contact through to my Capsule account within 5 minutes. So wish me luck. Now, what I'll do here is I'll actually click Create Form. And the first thing that we're asked here is which group we want these contacts to be added to. Now, if you remember at the start of the webinar, I mentioned when we first integrate Capsule and Transpond, the Capsule group is formed, which is a shared pool of contacts. So I personally want the contacts that are putting their detail into this Transpond form on my website. I want that to go through to Capsule, so I want it to be added to the Capsule group, that shared pool. If we wanted them to go to a separate group and not be added to Capsule, that's fine as well. We can either create a new group altogether, or we can choose an existing group that we have in Capsule and Transpond, should I say. The next thing we have to decide is what type of form we want. So we have options here. We have the option of a regular form. So this typically asks visitors to provide basic information such as their name, their email address, and they're signing up for something general. They're signing up for a newsletter, maybe an account, or just simply product updates. We also then have the gated content form, which is the one I'll use today. This typically is a form that appears in front of specific valuable content. In our case today, I will put it in front of an ebook. I've also seen customers put this in front of a webinar link or recording, for example. The idea behind this is there's a bit of reciprocity. You give me some data and I'll give you something that's going to be valuable to you. So essentially, the great thing about gated content is we can typically ask for a bit more detail from somebody than a regular form. So we might also be able to capture job role, for example, or company name. So let's begin creating a gated content form here. I'll hit continue. And the first step I'm going to do here is adding the content. And I have got my ebook ready to go in Transpond. If you didn't have it there in that prompt, it will open the File Explorer and let you choose the content you want from your computer. We can set download limits, but I'm not going to. So if we wanted to set a download limit for how many times this person can download it, we can do so, or have a timeout, we can, but for today, I won't set that. We also have a few options from a content access perspective. For obvious reasons, the inner confirmation email is what we generally recommend. This incentivizes them to put a real email address there so that they will actually receive the link to an email address they have access to. So we always recommend that, and that is the option I will proceed with. And now we can click through to start designing your form. Now, the next thing we have to decide is whether we want a hosted form or an embedded form. So just to explain the difference here, a hosted form is essentially hosted by Transpond. So when we go through the design process and the form's ready to deploy, we're given a URL. So this is really useful if you want to add it to a social media post, for example. It means that you could paste that URL into the social media post description and give viewers a link to click on. They can put their details in and they can be automatically added to Capsule, as we will have set up today. We also offer embedded forms. So commonly embedded forms might be used if you want to embed them into a block on your website or indeed into an email. So both really good options with slightly separate use cases. For today, I'll make a hosted form and I'll choose this rounded template here. So when you sign up to Transpond, you will also have access to these form templates. So it really is quick to get up and running. We are presented with these options when we first create a form, which is essentially who do we want these contacts to be owned by from a contact level in Capsule. I'm happy with them being the integration owner in this case, so I will save and close. And this is the drag and drop form editor. So for those of you who have perhaps created email campaigns in Transpond, this will look familiar. It's very similar. And we can essentially, on the left-hand side here, drag and drop elements onto this page to essentially build our form out. Now, for time purposes, I'm just going to add one more field here. I'm going to add a last name field. If I can actually drag it to the right spot here. Okay. So I'll just search for last name here. I'm going to make all the fields required as well because I really want to capture that data. They're going to get a really good ebook when they fill this in. Just put a placeholder. This is the text that appears before they've typed anything into that field. I've also got a red box around first name, you may have noticed. Transpond's really helpful. If there are any errors that are going to cause issues down the line, it will let you know straight away. I've got a red box around this one because there's no field selected yet. So I'll just search for first name. We've got first name there. So that just means that when someone puts their first name in here, it will be correctly sent through to Transpond and Capsule's first name fields. I will also make this required as well, and that placeholder is correct. Let's just make sure, okay, we've got the email address correct here. Let's make that required too. And I'm not going to win any design awards for this, but for the purposes of time, I'll just make one change. Download our ebook now. Perfect. We can preview this, so if you want to see how it will look on different devices, you can do so here. I'm really happy with that. Looks nice and uniform across all devices. I will then click continue, and Transpond will guide us through all the steps we need to take care of for this form to work. So step 2 here is what we want to happen when the user's filled in the form. I'm going to stick with what Transpond's giving me. Thanks for subscribing. We've sent you an email. That works really well for this use case. And also in the scenario where they already exist, i.e. they exist in Transpond and Capsule, what do we want to do? Again, I'm happy with this message. You've already signed up. We've updated your details. So let's also click next there. I'll just put a test email on this one, and this will take me through to design the template for the email that will have the download link to the ebook. So I'll design this template now, and we'll essentially see the different options. Transpond does give me a pre-made template, which will likely be pretty good to go from the start, and we'll be able to use that. Apologies, my browser's misbehaving here. So I'm happy with this. It will say, thank you for subscribing. I might want to tweak that, say, thanks for signing up for my ebook and download file, but this all looks good to me here. Again, we can preview these to see how they'll look on different platforms. And step 5, we can choose where they go when they have signed up and downloaded that. So again, we can design the template for this. You're subscribed. I'm happy with that again. And that is everything we need to do. We now have the URL to our hosted form. So if I copy that URL, I'm going to open a new tab here. I'm going to paste that URL, and this is our form. It's ready to go. So let's create a contact. I'm just going to create James Webinar. And we'll hit subscribe. We can see our message is working. Thanks for subscribing. We've sent you an email, and now that test email will have received a download link to that ebook. Now, the moment of truth, let's see if our contact is now in Capsule. So I actually have a save list for web form signups. So ultimately, this is just a save list with a filter for the tag being web form. But we can also, if I sort by added on, I can also see a time-based view on when that contact was added, and we can see my contact has successfully come through James Webinar added today. So I hope I've done that within 5 minutes, but it was certainly close. And that is how we can create a Transpond web form and deploy it. Again, that could have been linked to from anywhere where you can post a URL. So we could put that on a social media post, which is what we're going to discuss next. So if I now pop back into Transpond, to create social media campaigns, we just need to go to campaigns here, and we can then go to social. And it's worth noting as well, I've been speaking with some customers who are using social campaigns with Transpond, and what they are liking about it is that it is offering them broader reach. So we don't necessarily need the email addresses of those who are looking at our social media posts. And it also offers real-time engagement. So people can reply to it really easily, and we can reply to them in turn. And it also allows businesses to connect with new audiences. And also, needless to say, these are interactive and mobile-friendly campaigns. So they're a really great way of essentially using omni-channel marketing really easily within the same platform, which is Transpond. Without further ado, let's start a campaign. Social campaign. Okay, social campaign May. Social media post, perfect. Let's create campaign here. And for today, I'll create a social media post that will be posted on LinkedIn and X. And it's worth noting, by the way, if you do have multiple personas or accounts with any of these platforms, we do offer a switcher, which I'll show you. It's a couple of steps from now. I'll show you how you can change it. So if you do want to post from different accounts, you can also do that as well. So I'm happy with posting to LinkedIn and X. So let's go through to the next step. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I get writer's block and I need a bit of help coming up with some content. And let's say I'm in that situation now and I want to come up with a post, but I have a bit of writer's block. And this brings me on to the AI Content Assistant feature. Now, Transpond features this across a lot of the aspects of Transpond where we are writing text. And you'll notice because we're creating a social campaign, it has pre-populated this drop-down, so it knows that it needs to write something for its social post. I can also tune it further by using the other drop-down here, and let's go for consulting industry today. And I'll put here just a bit of a prompt. Let's put exciting announcement happening next week. Let's see how it does. Exciting news alert. Okay, it's a little cheesy, but let's proceed. And I'm also going to add a photo to show you how it looks when we do add photos, because it will optimize those based on the platforms that we're using. And I'll just use this one. And we can go through to next step. And this is the customization page. So this shows us how it will look on each platform. And it gives us a couple of options. So I mentioned before, you can switch between accounts. So if you did have multiple accounts that you wanted to send posts from, you can switch between them here. And you don't have to set that up prior to doing this. You can add an account from this page as well. So in this case, it's going to post from my LinkedIn. And if I want to tweak this or make sure it's following best practices for that marketing platform, we actually have a really great tool available on this page. And it is the Optimize button. So if I go through to Optimize for LinkedIn, if I click on that, this will use OpenAI to optimize this content based upon the best practices for that platform. So if I click Optimize, and if I then click Use this content, we can see it has changed the text there. And we can do that as well with X here. Obviously, X has a slightly different character limit, so that's something worth taking into account. So we'll optimize the X post as well. Okay, looks like it's shortened it there, and it has indeed shortened it. So it's brought us below the character limit on X. So that's definitely a feature worth using. If, like me, you are posting something to multiple platforms, you want to make sure that you're not going to be hampered by those character limits. Transpond will remind you if you are above a character limit, it will let you know before you proceed, but it's just worth noting as well. So now I've optimized both of those. I'm happy. I can just double check here. They look pretty good. So if we then go through to the next step, we then have the scheduling option. So again, Transpond's really simple to use in terms of each different type of campaign we can send. They have very similar user interfaces. So this is very similar to the SMS scheduler and also the email campaign scheduler. We can publish immediately if we wish, or we can schedule for later. So we do have a few different scheduling options there. We'll also take a look next at SMS and how the scheduling options differ slightly. One thing that Transpond is reminding me here is that I haven't got any links in here. So if I did want to utilize my site tracking, I would want to put perhaps a link to my website or a form, for example, on this post. I'd then be able to look at the engagement in terms of website visits, forms, etc. and that is social campaigns. Now, I want to now cover SMS campaigns as well. Again, we're talking about omni-channel today, how we can reach people. So let's cover SMS. I'm going to save and exit out of my social campaign here. And we'll go to SMS. It's worth noting SMS on Transpond is in beta at the moment, and it is currently UK-only customers. Much like the social campaigns, we can start a campaign using the button on the right-hand side here. And I'm going to call this SMS May. We can click Create Campaign. And of course, in this case, with the mode of communication being a text, we are targeting people whose phone number we have. So we are given the option of which phone number to use. We have the mobile phone number field available to us. So I'm going to choose that. Once we've chosen that, we can choose who we want to send it to. So I can send it to a group, so an overall group of contacts, or a segment, which is a more specific demographic here. If I go into my segments, I'm going to choose a few here. Okay, we'll choose 2 segments, and we can see I've got 12 recipients. So these will be the number of test contacts I have on my account who have a number in that mobile phone field. We can then proceed to the next step using the continue button, and we have a couple of fields here. So I can choose the from name. I'm going to remove LTD here, so it looks a bit cleaner at the top. We can see Demo Co. I've got this really useful preview on the right-hand side of how this will look on mobile devices. And then we can start the messaging. So here we have the opt-out that's automatically added on here for us. And there are a couple of things to talk about when creating an SMS campaign in Transpond. We can use the AI content assistant again. So let's go for consulting again. Invitation to event next week. Generate content. I haven't given it much there. Let's see how it does. Okay. Let's use that. If I close this off now, we get a really useful preview of how this will look on a phone. If we want to personalize this, Transpond offers a really handy tool called merge tags. This gives us the ability to personalize the messaging on a per recipient basis. If I want to use this, let's say we want to say something like, "Hey, James." We just need to use the merge tag button here. And I can then choose which field I'm pulling. Now, with Transpond and Capsule being linked, I have a lot of data I could use to personalize these messages. I'm going to keep it really simple for today, and we're going to go for first name. If you've got lots of fields, or you want to specifically just look at the data that's in Capsule, you can use the Capsule filter here. And I'm going to search for first name. And it's as easy as that. So if this was sent to me, for example, it would say, "Hey, James, join us next week." And then it will give me the opt-out button at the end as well if I did want to opt out. Now, I'm quite happy with that for the purposes of today. So we can then click continue. And this is where we have the scheduling options. So we can either send this immediately or we can schedule it for later. There is legislation in the UK that essentially says you can't send text messages or SMS after 8 p.m. or before 9 a.m. So we do mention that there, and also set the start times and end times for you. We get a couple of checks done at the bottom here just to make sure that everything looks good. Transpond detects if there are any problems with this, and then we can send that SMS campaign. And that is SMS campaigns. Now, obviously, SMS is also useful for follow-ups. So the last thing I'd like to show you all today is Transpond automations and also how we can tie SMS into that. So automations can be accessed using the automations button in Transpond, and I'm going to select create automation. I mentioned it at the start of the webinar that there really is no need to worry about creating automations. I know lots of people, especially if it's their first time creating one, it can feel a little scary, but We offer some different templates for automations, anything from a happy birthday email that's automatically sent to somebody every year, through to a welcome email. If somebody clicks a link, we can do something automatically. We can do SMS related tasks as well. And also, because of that really tight link with Capsule, we can perform actions in Capsule based upon people's activity on our campaigns across the different channels. For today, I am going to create one from scratch, and I will show you how easy it is. Now, it's worth noting, I would recommend creating an automation. If it's for a campaign, create that before you send the campaign. Otherwise, the automation won't be able to act upon people's engagement on your emails. So I always recommend, as a prerequisite for campaign automations, set those up prior to sending that campaign. And the first step in creating an automation in Transpond is to define a workflow trigger. Now, I'm going to select contact joining a segment. Now, this covers a scenario we've had today, actually, where somebody fills in a form. In my case, when they filled in the form, they were also tagged with web form. They would be in the Capsule group. We want to only action this on active contacts, and we'll select my web form signups segment. So these are people that have that web form signup tag. So what this means is when somebody fills in the form, they'll be sent through to Capsule and tagged as web form, a web form signup, and they'll be in this segment. So as soon as that happens, as soon as they fill in the form, this automation will start. The first thing I'd like to do is send them an email. We could create a new email here, but I'm conscious of time. So what I'll do is I'll show you what I do next after that email. So that would take you through to the email template editor. We can create a template. We can use merge tags again, and we can include links and such like in there. After that email, it's added a delay of 2 days for me automatically, which is great. It's really allows me to wait a couple of days before we send the next thing. We don't want to be sending multiple emails or points of contact in quick succession. I'll actually add a conditional step here. And we'll select campaign activity. This condition step allows the automation to tune its behavior based upon someone's behavior on our campaign. So in this case, they've signed up on the web form, they've received an email. I'm going to select any campaign here. If they open that, or if they click any link, for example, at least once, we'll be given this branch down here where I can choose what happens if they do or don't perform that. So for example, if they do, I'm going to take that as a buying signal. They're showing intent there. So I will add a tag to them. So I'll add a tag to them in Capsule and Transpond. And I'm going to classify them as a hot lead if they're clicking links. So let's hit save there. So if they do that, they will be tagged as a hot lead. I'd also like to notify myself or a member of our team via a Capsule task that this activity's happened, this positive activity, and maybe we can follow up with them. To look at any Capsule related actions, I just need to scroll down to Capsule here, and I'm going to create a task. For this, I can then use merge tags. So if I want to really make this task specific, I can put their first name and last name, and then I can put text like has clicked the link. This will go through to Capsule to the owner I choose, and they will receive that task and they'll be notified that there's been activity on the campaign, and then we can choose what actions we then take. We might also want to follow up by SMS or another medium as well. So we could use the SMS action here to, again, just follow up with them via a different medium. I also see customers using this for renewals or reminders that their trial is coming to an end. That is everything I wanted to cover today. Apologies, we've run over ever so slightly, but I hope that was helpful for everyone. Keith, Joe, have we had some good questions today?
Hi there, everyone. Yeah, so we've had a few questions today. There was a couple of questions about SMS, how to kind of purchase credits and how kind of SMS works from that regard. So hopefully we've answered everyone's points on those. And there was also questions around website tracking and which plan website tracking is introduced on. So what I'll just do now while we're chatting is I'm going to pop in the chat for everyone a link to our pricing page, just so you can see a breakdown of what plans each feature that James discussed today, where they're introduced and what the different limits are. So I'll just introduce that into the chat now while we're all here.
Thanks, Keith.
We also had, there was a question around conversations and using conversations as a chatbot, if that was possible. So Joseph responded to that. And I don't know if there's anything kind of outstanding at the moment or anything you've picked up from your end, Joseph.
No, Roy, I'll pick up your question in a second. But as I mentioned to, I think it was anonymous, but as it stands, SMS messages come from a generic number. There is not a way to get replies from them. So your best bet is, if you do want to kind of encourage communication through your SMSs, is to include a link or a separate way to kind of get your customers to engage with you. But there's not a way to reply. I'll write it in the Q&A as well, so it will be there for future reference and for anyone who's referencing back to this.
Yeah, perfect. And I just saw another question come in from Sean around, are there any financial advisors using Transpond? So yeah, Transpond's used really broadly, just like Capsule is. So we don't cater to like a specific industry. So if you want to know kind of your own use cases, or you have some questions about your specific sector, just follow up with our support team after the session, and we can give you some more dedicated information materials that might relate specifically to how you plan on using the system and the kind of features that are contained within.
Absolutely, yeah. If anybody wants to follow up with us, speak with us in more detail, get some bespoke advice, please feel free to reach out to us at support@capsulecrm.com, and yeah, we'd be happy to help.
Perfect. I think that might be all the questions. I think we're pretty much good to go. I think Joseph's just replying to a final question. And yeah, I think that's pretty much everything.
Perfect. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today, and we will see you on the next webinar. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.